Hey, everybody. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. That's right. It's time for another Sarcastic Distractions, the interesting podcast for interesting people. And as always, you're with the Gentleman Society of Podcasting, myself, Harvey, my heterosexual life mate, David, and the ever-loving AJ.
Hey.
And today, we have an incredibly special guest on our show today. That would be ECW legend, Justin Credible. And today,
what's going on?
Yeah, man. Today we're going to be talking about all things wrestling, the state of it, all the good stuff, and just talk to you, my man, Mr. Credible, about your life, your career, and just kind of what you're doing. Life's good here. How are you?
Nice. I can't complain too much. Things are okay. All things considered, especially with the pandemic, it's been really hard on us both creatively. Of course, we can't do live events of any kind. Yeah. Just for work, it's just really held everyone up in the entertainment industry, not just in the pro wrestling industry. So it's been challenging, but we're getting by like everyone else, and just kind of getting ready. I'm over COVID, man. I'm over it. I know you guys have it a lot worse than we do right now with the lockdowns.
Yes.
So I know you're going through some stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's been bonkers here. Yeah, like we've our government can't figure out whether to lock us up or not lock us up. And we're like, oh, okay. And now we've got we're in weird situations where cops are saying, we're gonna do our own thing. It's really weird. It's a weird time to be alive. That's for sure.
It is weird.
Yeah,
it is. And I actually was watching some stuff real quick about Canada, and they're really strict on you guys. I mean, you literally can't go out if you don't have a really good reason for it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, our government just enforced saying that basically cops can pull you over and ask you why you're out, and can slap a fine on you if you don't got a good enough reason. I mean, if that's not something out of 1984, I don't know what it is. But you know what? Right. There's also not 1984 pro wrestling. I just want to put out there in case our listeners, I love pro wrestling. It is maybe my favorite form of storytelling. I've been a fan ever since I was a kid, and I just my wife hates me saying this. I can't get enough of it. If she had her way, I would probably watch it again. My little Elite and Bullet Club stuff. Yeah. So Justin, fill us in, man. Fill us what you're doing now. I mean, it's a pandemic. What are you doing as a pro wrestler, as an entertainer in this time to kind of, keep that dream alive, if you will?
It's been really challenging. I've been about 2 years ago, I'd say, when AEW first started doing Dynamite, Vince Russo, former creative writer for both WWE, WCW, and a couple of other smaller promotions, he hit me up about doing a show with him on his brand, on his network, which kind of switched me over doing some podcasting on a professional level, and which was great. It's really kind of helped me, kind of use my energies towards that. But that's not, it's not enough. Although it helps, it's not enough to really pay the bills. So I've just been, some real work, some, wrestling signings and autographs and stuff like that, virtual stuff, just being creative, and trying to stay out there as much as you can.
Out there. Yeah. I gotta
jump in. I do have one question, which is similar-ish. So kind of going back, a few years, what was one of the reasons that you really wanted to become a wrestler? What was it you were looking for back in the day?
Sure. I was just a fan as a kid. I just remember, we're going back to the 80s, just watching Hulk Hogan pin the Iron Sheik. I must have been 11 or 12. And just for fun, I was just like, wow, I never saw anything like it. And it's right when that whole rock and wrestling started to kind of happen. So I was just, as a fan, just kind of like, wow, just loved it. It was like, I wasn't really into sports, watching sports. I played sports, but I wasn't really into it back then to watch it. So to me, it was like my thing. It was like, some people like comics, some people like, and I liked wrestling. And, a couple years later, I found myself in Calgary, training to become one.
Right on. Did you train with the legendary Hart Dungeon?
I trained with the Hearts. At that time, Stu wasn't bringing anybody to the dungeon, and not all the Hearts were involved. The Hart that I worked with was Keith Hart, and originally I had spoken to Bruce Hart. So it was more like all the brothers just kind of went their own way. But I went to the school where Lance and Jericho had gone a couple of years before me. Yeah.
Is it as intense as they say? Like, is it brutal?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember, just first getting there, and we had to put up the ring. Of course, I'd never been in a wrestling ring, and right off the bat, you have to jog a couple of kilometers. You got to do like 500 free squats, all kinds of calisthenics, all kinds of rolls, and I mean that's before you even get in. To the ring. And then you have to. Then they start teaching you the bumps and hitting the ropes. I mean, it was rough, man. And they do that purposefully too, though, because back in those days they weren't quite smartening everybody up. It was still a little bit of kayfabe going on. It was like 91, 92, so there was still some kayfabe. And so they were trying to see, like, we don't smarten all of them up because not everybody's going to make it. So they just tried to keep, out of the 12 that came to the camp, only myself and this other guy from, I think he's from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Brett Farrell, actually came through and made it through the camp.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Well,
nice.
Yeah. I don't even know who that guy is.
He wrestled, I think, today as Big Daddy Hammer. He never really made it that far, but, he was quite good actually for the day. He just never, in Canada, it's harder for guys and gals getting breaks in the States because of the work stuff, the visas and whatnot,
For sure.
It's a lot harder. Yeah.
Yeah. So you brought up a good point I wanted to kind of talk to you about a little bit. So the title of this episode is How Pro Wrestling Will Never Die. Great case in point. I like sports, but I'm not as big as sports. Wrestling's one of the big things. And during this pandemic, we saw shutdowns of pretty much every single sport, every single entertainment, except pro fucking wrestling. Yeah. It managed to endure and still continues to endure on like all levels. Like we're talking independence, we're talking, not so much on the independence, but pros and all the levels up. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think it's still continuing to generate income for people?
I think especially for the main two, and Impact did it as well. So I'd even go as far as to say the main three. They have television contracts to fulfill, right? And in those television contracts, they have to have unique. I forgot what the word is, but first run entertainment, pretty much like new programming every week. So I think it was just they figured out how could we get content delivered in a safe environment for both the wrestlers and everyone involved, the crew. And I mean, it didn't take that much to really get everybody into a warehouse. And although at first it was very rough because, you realize how important fans are to the actual experience. Not only when you do professional wrestling, but when you watch it and experience it, it's such a give and take between the wrestler, the performer, and the fan. It's really a unique thing where in like baseball or basketball, hockey, whatever, fans are a bit of they're of course part of it, but not like wrestling, where wrestling will actually dictates kind of how long you could sell a move or what a response at a promo will be. Fans really have a unique, they're like that, like a teammate almost. So it really showed really how creative everybody was and how hard everyone worked just to try to give, decent matches on a weekly basis to continue fulfilling these contracts with major networks and also continuing the story that is pro wrestling.
You've wrestled with pretty decent crowds, and now you're like next to none. Like, how does that change your game? Like, how does it change your mentality when you're going into a match and you're putting something together?
Well, everything has to be much more scripted. At least in my case, it would be. I go out there and I could honestly say I ad-lib about 50% of my matches, meaning that I'll have a beginning and a finish pre-planned. But I really like that. My work, for me, always goes best when I'm listening to the crowd. They're kind of letting me know, is it working? Is it not working? So I really do my wrestling kind of feed off of them. It's like if they want to, they want me to go longer, I'll go longer if they're with it. If they're sitting on their hands and they're not into it, I'll go, I'll finish it up a little earlier. So their reaction is really crucial. So I do that. So the difference would be like really just, you can't, cause you talk to each other in there.
Yeah.
I'm always chatting with my opponent, like what to do, what not to do. And when there's nobody there, you really can't do that. So you really have to, have everything more nailed down than ad-libbing. So yeah, it's a lot harder.
I guess like what they're doing with hockey games and whatnot now is they're feeding in crowd noise. That wouldn't really work for you guys then, right?
I mean, it could for, and I think they do it to some degree with some of the WWE's production. It could work. It does work, I think, a little bit for the fan watching at home, but for the guys and gals doing it, I don't think it wouldn't matter. It'd probably be more distracting than anything.
Okay,
it
makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is that something that helps make a really good wrestler? Is that ability to kind of adapt as the show's going on? Oh.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, I mean, I was on Steve Austin's podcast, not the one he's doing now, his original one, a couple of years ago. And we talked about it, where we had a stretch of maybe 10 matches that we wrestled in a row against each other on the road. And we did the same match in 10 different towns, but 10 different towns got 10 different matches. Like one night might go 5 minutes, even though we do basically the same stuff. Then we can go, travel halfway across the country and do a completely different match. It's like, and what he meant by that is it's just about going out there and hearing what they're giving you. If you can go and do something that works as a heel or as a babyface, they might be into it or they might not. Yeah. Every crowd's different. Every city's different. Like, in some places they like a fight. They like to be loud and drunk and boisterous. Some people don't. Some people like more quiet, so crowds are different everywhere. So you just got to, kind of have the show to what they're giving you, really. It's a give and take.
And that's got to be the exciting part being a pro wrestler, right? I mean, that's got to be, all right, every night's going to be different. It's not going to be the same match, even though you might have had the same one planned, right?
Yeah, and that is the fun of it, though, because really you don't know what to expect. I like that. I'm so calm. I'm going on 28 years in the business as a full-time wrestler. My first match professionally was 1992. So to me, it's like I'm confident enough in my ability to go out there with nothing. And I'm confident enough to be able to make everything happen that I want to happen to ensure that the match is good and the fans, of course, have the best time possible. So, it just becomes fun at that point because you really are in complete control of your environment, the ring, the crowd, the referees, your opponent. It's a lot of fun.
Right on, man. So
you were saying, sorry, Chris, you were saying that you have a beginning and an end kind of set. How much more of that is, let's say, scripted or ad-lib? Like how much freedom do you have with that?
I would say like my opening spot is probably 2 minutes. And then the end of the finish, I probably have about 2 minutes of, false finishes. Oh, 1, 2, probably 2 minutes of scripted. And then the rest is just in the middle, just, because let's say you're doing, you're wrestling and you're familiar with it, I'm sure. You do the chop, and then the guy gives you one back and you're doing it back and forth. All that stuff's ad-libbed. I might start punching a guy and I'll tell him block and come back to, and give him to me, and then you start just calling stuff out there, and you do that on what the fans are kind of, if they're, sometimes it's good to grab a hold, work a body part, where maybe they could fight out of it, there's all different kinds of stuff really. And you just go with what the flow of the crowd is,
Okay, cool. I get you.
Why do you think wrestling has endured through history? Because we all know that there was at one point in time when people figured out, okay, there's no real winners or losers here, per se. So, and yet it became more popular than ever. Like that was one thing that I remember when the whole scandal went down, whatever it was in the mid-90s or whatever it was. And shit was going down. I'm like, oh, well, wrestling's going to die. No one's going to watch it ever again. And then all of a sudden, The Rock, Stone Cold, everybody just popped up. I'm like, how is this happening? Everyone knows it's not whatever. It's predetermined. And yet, why do we think that is? Like, what's going on here?
I mean, it's that next level of entertainment. It's probably the best of both worlds for especially people like, younger men. And I shouldn't say just younger men because a lot of young women watch it, older women, whatever. But it's just, it's acting, as you can see. The guys are great actors. Some of them have come out of wrestling, like you said, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, guys like Stone Cold. They're some of the best characters, on any side of any entertainment. So it's just like, I think fans have caught on that, hey, they're really talented. Although they're working a fight, a simulated fight, it's really, it's really its own entity. There's really nothing. There's really nothing else like it. UFC and boxing have always had that model of the fight game, and WWE did for a long time. But like you said, when it became strictly entertainment, it just had that ability to become a hybrid of its own thing, And even though fans all know, I don't think there's probably 1% of all wrestling fans think it's a shoot. I think everybody knows it's a work, but still they appreciate it for what it is, the spectacle, the work ethic. They love getting involved and even thinking what's the next storyline going to be, really like a soap opera. You know?
Yeah.
So I think they've just embraced that. And although it's a new thing, quite frankly, pro wrestling is in the entertainment genre. It's only been, 40, 50 years since it's been a thing on a main level. I think it's never going to go anywhere.
I think you're right, man. I think you're right. I think we're just going to get more. And like with the landscape now, and this is like got me as a fan so fucking excited, is this cross-pollination between AEW, Impact, possibly New Japan, and even WWE. The fact that they're like sharing in some sort of capacity is like, what is happening right now?
Right.
How do you feel about such things happening?
I mean, I think it's great. And then again, the more and more they become, men and women become stars of this genre, then of course, even AEW starting to mess around with reality shows and all kinds of other entertainment. So really it becomes not just a wrestling brand, it becomes an entertainment brand where they could get all kinds of different stuff in there. And I think that's what it will all become at one point will be, although they have pro wrestling, which will be their main thing, but all in all, an entertainment television brand, because for the ratings that they get, pro wrestling is still one of the cheapest things that producers and television people have to get those kinds of ratings. If you have to make a television show and like let's say the Falcon and Winter Soldier, that's got a $20 million production budget. I'm sure more. I'm guarantee you probably more. And in pro wrestling, you could put that, a show on forever with that kind of money, for years, So for the ratings that they get, it's the cheapest programming the television networks can find. That's why it's constantly popping up,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I was hooked early. I had two fond memories. I saw the Iron Sheik take on Little People back in the 80s. And I couldn't even believe it was possible in my mind when I was a kid. I'm like, there's just, what? They're clearly going to beat them. And they didn't, obviously.
That's funny.
And then I remember I went to a live show and we got to see Dusty Rhodes fill in for Jake, who couldn't make it. I don't know why. But Jake the Snake, taking on the $1 Million Man. And then, sure enough, he took all the $1 Million Man's money and like handed it out to the audience.
That had to be circa 90 or 91.
Yes, sir. It was really, really early. Yes. And he handed my dad $20. I'm like, how could I not be a fan of this? Like how
But that's what's the weird thing about wrestling is I actually know that era. Like most wrestling fans would be like, yeah, that was when this was going on, or that's how it is with wrestling. It's like it's one of those things that's like a nerd's dream because there are also these cool facts and these, it just gives you a plethora of knowledge, and just the fun stuff to geek out about, and have fun.
And it's just such a legacy in history. Like it's never ending. Like you could. You want to go back 100 years to talk pro wrestling? There's probably something there. Like,
bro, I have the most amazing piece of thing, well, whatever you call it, memorabilia, and I don't collect a lot of my own stuff. Somebody gave it to me, the Wwe Encyclopedia. I don't know if you guys ever seen one. It literally has every WWE superstar, past and present, and and I'm literally talking about like it has all of the characters I ever was in a WWE ring, any match, everybody that's there, like guys in black and white is what I'm saying. Like literally going back that far, and it's like 1,000-page color glossy, and it's amazing. And that's what I mean. It's like they have that rich history of traveling the world and collecting these facts and these cool little things. And it's like, it is kind of fun to say, well, this guy had a match in Boston, Massachusetts in front of 1,500 fans and he wrestled this guy. It's like, You know what I mean? Where else could you get that? You know.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. I wonder if that's where Jericho got his idea for his new book. I don't know if you talked about it or not, but like his. So,
I've seen that.
Yeah. So I'll break it down for you, Dave and AJ. Basically, Jericho has written a book where he's detailed every single one of his matches that he's had in his career. Some way, somehow, he was able to get documentation of it all, and now he's put it all together. Yeah, I mean, it's like he's had a 30-year career. We're probably not going to see this kind of thing again. So it's kind of neat that he's able to do that. I wonder if that was kind of where he came up with the idea, was like that encyclopedia.
Yeah, I mean, I that's really cool. And actually, I'm in there a couple times because my 4th ever match was against Chris Jericho in Calgary in front of like 75 people.
Right on.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah. And that's funny. There was a record like that that someone kept for me of me in the WWE from 94 to 97. I have every match I was in, where and who I wrestled. But but that's all I have. They didn't cover me, my ECW stuff, which is a shame. And I'm pretty sure it was because of the WWE that they got those records from. Probably, but that's a great idea by Jericho's part to put that together, because that's really neat. You know?
His innovation is just something else. Like
yeah.
It's awesome. Dude, your ECW run is holy fuck, dude. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm gonna nerd out if I keep going on about that. Speaking of let's talk about favorite wrestlers. This is across the board, especially you, AJ. But
oh geez.
Oh no.
But now, obviously, like as much as I want to, I do have a dream one day to be able to put a match together myself. I want to do that one day, but that's neither here nor there. None of us have wrestled, so for us, we'll talk about our favorite wrestlers. Justin, I'd like to know from you favorite wrestlers you've admired, people you learned from, and also like opponents, people you've had a chance to work with.
Wow. I mean, I've got the pleasure of really working with everybody. I would say that I'll go this way to make it more realistic. The people I wanted to wrestle that never could were Flair and Hogan.
Yeah.
Those are two people that I've always wanted to wrestle and never did. But literally everybody else, probably yes. Like I've wrestled Undertaker, The Rock, Stone Cold, Jericho, The Undertaker, Mr. Perfect, Yokozuna. I mean, you name it.
Wow.
John Cena. Really had the privilege of wrestling like everybody, and Scott Hall was one of my favorites. I wrestled him quite a bit. The Sandman, Sabu, Tommy Dreamer from ECW. So it's been crazy. It's been a crazy thing.
And obviously some people are better to work with than others, but it sounds like your experience with all of them has all been ultimately good. Like you never really had any, shitty. Yeah.
No, everything has been super positive. I've been very blessed. I mean, I could honestly say that nobody was really ever a jerk to me. I never had, like a hard time with anybody. No, everybody's been, it's been a really nice experience. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Dave, I already know what you're going to say. Who's your favorite wrestler?
Uh-oh.
You already know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to say.
Well, I kind of am afraid to say it.
Go ahead.
It would have to be Hulk Hogan, just because that's who I grew up as a kid, and I had the luxury of actually meeting him in person.
Hulk was great,
by accident.
Man.
Oh, he was great. He was very, I bumped into him in a hallway in Vegas while doing a trade show, and it was one of those moments where I stopped mid-hallway as I walk in, and he walked up to me and goes, "Hey, dude," and I just said, "Hi." And he walked on by, but it was great.
Yeah. Hulk's one of those people that he, and he's one of my favorites too. I got to meet him once, actually sat down. It was me, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash. And we were in I think Cleveland, Ohio. And they invited me and Scott. We were traveling together to Hulk's room. And I walk in and there's Hulk with his bandana on, a t-shirt, his wrestling pants, the red or yellows, and smoking a joint. So I'm like, I'm gonna smoke a joint with the Hulkster. He was so cool. He was such a nice dude. So, and that's what we did. Smoked a joint and had a couple of beers talking shit.
Nice, very nice.
You're giving me new life goals, man.
That was a pretty good one. That was a pretty good one. He was nice. Really super nice guy though.
Wow.
And he looks like that cartoon character, because of the hair and how big he is. He looks like a star, Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's carried himself that way for so long. Well, I'm jealous of both you guys. I've never met him. So,
nice.
Whatever. AJ, what about you if you had to choose?
If I had to choose, I've always admired The Undertaker. I've always been fascinated by, I don't know if it was that era of wrestling for me where it was not so much the soap opera kind of thing, where it was more of it seemed more of like it was like a sporting event as opposed to a soap opera or a TV show or something like that. So yeah, The Undertaker, guys like Kevin Nash and Razor Ramon and those kind of guys.
Right on. Right on.
I started watching wrestling back when it was like the Rockers and stuff.
Oh,
like
wow,
that.
yeah. That's when I started watching it. Yeah.
Where you'd get Mean Gene Okerlund or whatever interviewing them right in front of something, and then you'd cut to the match as opposed to that little drama.
That was the golden era, man. That was the golden era.
That's when I enjoyed wrestling personally. I kind of fell off after they started doing the soap opera-y situational kind of things. Yeah. So yeah, Undertaker would be cool to kind of pick his brain. He seems like,
oh my God,
pretty intense dude.
Yeah, he's a really good dude. Really good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you think he was well represented in his Last Ride documentary?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark is what you see is what you get. I mean, he worked really hard in this business. He got a big break pretty early. I'd say 5-6 years into his run, he got the Undertaker character. But man, what a long road for him. I mean, he was probably one of the hardest working guys in the WWE.
Oh my God.
Especially in the mid '90s. I mean, they worked us. Business was bad. This was around the time when I was there during the what's his name, McMahon steroid trial.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we were doing, sometimes I remember doing European tours where we'd go 30 days straight. I mean, literally from town to town in Europe, no nights off for, shit pay. And that's when Taker was on top there. We really, like, he was the workhorse. He put in all the work. So like all the money that they say he makes at WrestleMania and like it's $1 million for WrestleMania and all that, he deserves it because he put in the work when he wasn't getting that, nobody was. So yeah, he's a good dude.
That's wild.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I've got nothing but crazy respect for him for sure. I mean, I think I guess got respect for professional wrestlers because I think I just it's such a weird job and you put your body on the line the way you do. Like for me, it's funny. So I'll just talk about my favorite because So AJ, I dropped off the same time as you. Like I think with wrestling, you kind of go in waves. I don't know about now, but there was a time, and I remember hearing about. Hogan being a bad guy. This is the NWO thing. And I'm like, bullshit. There's no way he's going to be a bad guy. And then I turn it on. And then I think it was the episode of Nitro where DDP confronted him. And I was hooked. DDP fucking did it. Yeah. He made me believe like that stuff was happening. And I'm like, my mind couldn't handle it. So I just like, I'm like, how, like everything was just so like, it wasn't until I was older to realize, kind of how it all went down. And, I ended up, investing in DDP's like book, Positively Page, all this sort of stuff. And I was just engrossed in this character that seemingly was really him. And I was like, that you could do that? Like, I didn't think it was a thing. Fast forward, I don't know how long ago it was. I got a chance to go to one of his DDPY, workout seminars.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and it was really, really awesome. They say never meet your heroes. I was blessed.
Dallas is awesome, dude. And in the workouts, he gave me, I got the app, the DDPY app.
Yeah.
And I love his stuff. Yeah, he coached me through my first couple times, man. He's
really
all that you see and all that you hear is all real, dude.
Oh man,
he makes time for you. He's a good dude, man.
If I could move to Smyrna, I'd probably work for DDPY. I think it's awesome. Like
and he made all of that, man, out of nowhere. I mean, God bless him. He's a smart dude. Works hard.
Yeah, he really does. Like, and to look that way he does in his 60s now, like, my God, man. Like, just unbelievable. So he's my all-time favorite. Right now, there's so much great talent out there. There's no one. Like maybe Kenny Omega would probably be top of the class. Who would you say are standouts right now?
I would say Kenny would probably be number one. I see WWE, although all of their guys on top are all really good, nobody excites me there. They all just seem like, to me, regular guys. And people like Randy Orton, it's like, as good as he is, we've seen it, done it. I don't know. I need fresh guys, but you could say Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. I don't know. Just there's something that magic is missing. I don't know what it is. All I know is you know it when you see it, and none of those guys, for me, as sound as they all are, and they're great performers, just aren't doing it for me.
Yeah, I felt a little spark when MVP came back for the Hurt Business. I felt like there was something, but it seemed to fizzle out, and I'm kind of in the same boat with you. It's just it's not grabbing me.
You know what they missed, dude, and this is what I think helped in the WCW era. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when guys would jump ship, it almost seemed like it would freshen up the scene. It would freshen up the talent. Like he's got, everybody's got like a new guy to work. And I think the lack of new guys jumping back and forth, it's like, 6 months in advance, all right, somebody's out of their contract. They're going to go on over. It's like everything is so, too much. Like I miss the surprises on Raw. I miss having those things where it really impacts business, where it becomes must see. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, it's like you could not watch Raw for a week or two and not really lose anything. And that's why the business, I think, is where it is and is hurting that little bit.
I think you're absolutely right. I think I can't remember who said the quote, but you might know this, Justin. The quote is, before like kayfabe was exposed, you had to work the crowd. Now that everybody's in on the game, you now have to work everybody. Like there's no and I think that's been the tricky part is how do you do that? How do you figure that, whatever angle that is, right?
That becomes a very lonely road. And what I mean by that is, like, I always tried to do it. There's another wall there, and I'm not even going to, like they say, whatever numbers of walls, but like there's the wrestlers are behind one wall, and then there's the fans. That you're all, the fans are smartened up. We know it. So we're playing to try to work them. But then there becomes a thing where everybody is so smart on what's going on in the ring. You almost have to work your opponent into thinking like, maybe you go off script a little bit and pretend that you're hurt, even though you're not really hurt. And like, don't tell anybody, including the guy you're wrestling. Like, really? I don't know. Like there's gotta be stuff. And I do that once in a while. There's like a stiff shot in there and like, I'll show a little bit of like, don't try that again, dude. Almost go into real mode and then dial it back and let me see if somebody starts whispering in the back and then maybe work that into the real stuff. Like, oh, now he doesn't like it, but you can't smarten everybody up because there's too many people to talk. So that's what I mean. It's a lonely road. Like you have to really find someone you trust to work like that. It's just there's more out there creatively. We just got to figure it out. And I think when fans get back to the arenas, I think that'll be the time to test the newer things.
Where do we see the future of wrestling going? I know we kind of touched upon it a little bit, but now with the forbidden door being open so well, what do you think it looks like in the next 5 years?
I think it's going to take 5 years. That's a good thing to think about. I have no idea. I think sky's the limit on 5 years. It can go. I see it going higher. That's all I can say. I don't have any idea where or how, but I know AEW will be there, and I know WWE will be there. Yeah. I think it's going to take a good 2 years post-pandemic. I mean, after it's going to take at least a year once fans are back. To kind of, because listen, we don't know who's really over. That's another thing.
Yeah, that's true.
We could tell who's over by the way fans react. We could have never gotten The Rock or Stone Cold in the Attitude Era if it wasn't for fans. If they were doing it in a warehouse with no fans, you couldn't tell me they would have found The Rock, even though I'm sure they would have said, hey, that Rock kid's entertaining. Yeah. The people made him. The people made true. Stone Cold. And I think it's going to take a while for the fans to tell us who are the guys that they want to see. So then when you blend that all together, I'd say it's going to take a good 2 years to normalize it from now to where fans are back in there, and the WWE and the AEW will realize who are the money players and how are we moving forward for that 5 year mark.
Yeah, man. That's a very insightful answer. I appreciate that. I can't predict it for the life of me. I think I'm so in the weeds as a fan though. I try to pull out. I'm like, nope, get on with storyline. So I'd be very interested to see what happens.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Could work for any of the current companies? Is there anyone you'd go back to or go to right now in a heart? Like if you had a preference, or if does it work? Like
I would love to go. I would. It does work like that. I would love to try AEW.
Yeah, man.
I really would. I think not for me working as a wrestler. Right. I think my time on that is, like I said, I work independence, but not at the high level that these young men and women are. So right. I don't think that would be realistic. I mean, could I pull off a good match? Yeah, I could do what Jericho does, but they're not looking for me to go do that. They have that. I would like to come in on a backstage kind of capacity where I could share my, unique 30. There's a lot of, I heard Jericho say this on the Austin podcast recently, and I agree with him. There's a lot, or there's very few guys that were in the business from like 92 when I started. Jericho was 90, and it came up through all these phases in the business, almost 30 years for me. It's like I still was around when it was kayfabe, I still was around for the territories. Then I was around for the Attitude Era of WCW, ECW, the Monday Night Wars, and then the post Monday Night Wars and all these other, so I have a unique perspective on seeing this huge landscape of wrestling. So I could bring that knowledge, hopefully, to both the men and women wrestling today, and also to help with storylines, production, because there's a lot of good stuff in here that I've seen that I'm sure most people haven't, in the business.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You hear that, Tony Khan? If you're listening to Sarcastic Distractions, get Justin
I won't hold my breath, but thank you anyways.
I would kill to see you, or not see you, but have you a part of the AEW crew. I think you'd be a fantastic fit. I mean, Taz is there. I mean, I feel like that'd be a nice little thing there, right?
Yeah.
Any opponents or anybody that you'd love to work with that you see that you haven't had the chance to today?
I'd like to work with Darby Allin. I think I could have a good match with him. I think I'd like to work with Adam Page, the Hangman. Yeah. I think he's super good. So, and he's kind of one of the people that I see being in the main event. They kind of teased him for a year or so of kind of being up there, then coming back down. I think it's just a matter of time before he gets the big push.
I'm surprised at how understated and good he is, considering how long he's been wrestling. Like he's main event material out of the box. It's
and he's only like 27. Right?
Yeah, he's only like 27. This guy, like I say MJF too in a way, but I think Hangman's just a little bit more advanced with his character. He seems to be
in the ring, especially too. He's a lot more. He's more ready.
Yeah, I can't wait for that freaking rivalry. Whenever we get that, MJF versus Hangman would be cool. Yeah. Man, it'd be great to see you to mix it up with Hangman. That'd be an unbelievable.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. to do it. I think our styles would mesh quite well.
Tony Khan, book it.
Yep.
He's not listening to me. He's not. That's fine. He makes way more money from his Jacksonville money than he
right.
For sure. Well, that's either way. Well, let's start to wrap this up here. I think Justin, you've been hanging out with us for coming on an hour now, so I just want to say appreciate that. Anybody got things they want to say before we start to get on with our night?
Nothing on my side. Just it was a little bit of fun to actually watch recent wrestling.
Very cool.
Yeah, I got a chance to see some of your. Yeah, we pulled up some of your recent matches. Man, you're still good. You still got it, dude. Like,
it was fun to watch.
Yeah, man.
I'm a little fat, but that's all right. A little DDPY, and I'll be good.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I was impressed for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, AJ, anything to add?
No, I've learned a bit. It's actually kind of made me want to go watch other wrestling rather than WWE, I guess.
Oh, right on. Right on. That's cool.
It's I feel like that's the reason I fell off, was because it changed so much.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I wouldn't mind, maybe not 20 minutes, but a longer match, not so quick fire, and then maybe less storyline, more.
Well, that's definitely AEW.
Two characters getting into it, right? That's about where I'd like to get to. So yeah.
Nice.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, on that note, I clearly did my job by convincing my friends to watch more wrestling by bringing one of the greatest wrestling legends on our podcast. So that's awesome. Justin, honestly, I can't say thank you enough for coming on. I hope we can maybe do this again and talk more in depth and all that good stuff.
In 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah. I honestly, dude, it kind of bums me out that you've been to our hometown. I haven't even seen you wrestle. I'm kind of weirded out because I feel like I go to any shows that come. So I hope I get a chance to, I don't know, sit down with you physically or get a chance to see you perform or do your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I'll say it real quick. I remember where we wrestled. It was at the ice house.
That is a while back.
House,
really?
And I remember when we wrestled there. This had to be 95. There was no heat in the locker rooms. We had these little space heaters. And everything hurt so much. It was like 50 degrees out there, because they had literally the seats in the ring up on the ice with just like the boards, just to cover up the ice. And the locker rooms were so cold. And we were there in like January. I'll never forget it.
Amazing.
But it was a great place, great fans.
Nice. Yeah. I think that's where I saw Dusty. I think that's where I saw Dusty do the thing there. Yeah,
we went there all the time. Actually,
oh my gosh!
In the day, yeah.
Yeah. Just a quick, not really full circle, but whatever you want to call it. Oddly enough, out near the ice house, which is not the ice house anymore, one of our local legends, Tyson Dukes, has his wrestling school, the Wrestling Factory out there. So
I know he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's good. He's a solid dude. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. And I really hope we get a chance to hang out sometime and watch you do your thing. It's a quick shout out for all that are out there. Just want to let you know, you matter. You matter to us. You matter to those around you. So if you're feeling a little mentally unwell, make sure to, talk to somebody about it. Cause I think it's very important. We all think it's important that that people care about you. So, until next time, I just want to say thanks so much again to Justin, to Dave, and to AJ to have this opportunity to just talk wrestling. Like my heart's just fluttering right now.
Thank you guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Honestly, take care, Justin, I hope we get a chance to do this again. And for our audience out there, thanks so much for listening. Every Wednesday we got new episodes. If you got ideas, you got comments, please throw them down below. We want to talk more about it. And until next time, you've been sarcastically distracted. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care.
See you later, fellas.
Oh, yeah, brother.
Right on.